The first time he told me we couldn't be together, I laughed in his face. Not because it was funny, but because it was pathetic how hard he tried to hide the way his hands trembled whenever I got too close. That night in New York, the air smelled like rain and cigarette smoke, and the glow of neon signs from the corner deli flickered over his face. Adrian Price, star quarterback, golden boy of Columbia University, the kind of guy who had the whole damn city bending to his smile, stood in front of me, jaw tight, eyes refusing to meet mine. "You know this can't happen, Noah," he muttered, voice low enough that only I could hear over the hum of passing traffic. His hand clenched the strap of his backpack like it was the only thing keeping him from reaching out. And yet, just minutes later, those same lips that had spoken rejection crushed against mine like he was drowning, and I was the only air left. Adrian was my contradiction wrapped in human skin, every no turning into a desperate yes when the world wasn't looking. I guess I should start at the beginning. When I transferred to Columbia last fall, I wasn't looking for love. Hell, I wasn't even looking for friends. I was just a music major from a small town in Ohio, trying to keep my head down and survive the chaos of a city that never slept. But life has this twisted sense of humor. It throws the very thing you're running from right in your face. Mine came in the shape of Adrian Price. I met him during orientation week, at some crowded rooftop party where everyone was pretending not to be terrified of the semester ahead. He was impossible not to notice. 6'2", broad shoulders that filled his varsity jacket, laughter that could cut through the thump of bass speakers. People swarmed around him like moths to a flame. And me? I was the idiot who spilled beer on his shoes. "Shitsuri," I blurted, staring at the dark stains spreading over his pristine white sneakers. My hands fumbled for napkins, heart pounding like a snare drum. For a split second, I expected him to snap. But instead, Adrian just chuckled, kneeling down to wipe his own shoes. "Guess you just baptized them," he said with a grin that made my stomach drop somewhere near the floor. It should have ended there, just another embarrassing college moment. But somehow our paths kept crossing. In the library, at late-night diners, on the practice field when I wandered by accident. He had this magnetic pull, the kind you don't want to admit you're drawn to because it's safer to look away. And yet, I couldn't. Adrian Price wasn't just another student. He was the son of Senator Richard Price, New York's golden political dynasty. His entire life was a performance, a brand carefully curated for cameras and voters. Future NFL star, dutiful son, straight as the trajectory of his perfect passes. And me? I was the secret no campaign could survive. The first time I caught him looking at me like I was more than just a friend was in the music hall. I was practicing piano late at night, fingers stumbling over a Chopin piece when he walked in, fresh from practice, sweat still glistening on his neck. He leaned against the doorframe, watching in silence until I finished. "You play like you're trying to outrun something," he said softly. I froze because he wasn't wrong. Music had always been my escape, the only way I could scream without making a sound. But no one had ever seen through me that fast. "That's rich coming from the guy who runs for a living," I shot back. He laughed, but his eyes lingered, and in that moment I swore he saw every secret I'd tried to bury. Weeks turned into months, and the tension grew unbearable. We'd sit shoulder to shoulder in the dining hall, our knees brushing under the table. I catch him staring when he thought I wasn't looking. Every smile, every accidental touch, was a battle neither of us admitted we were fighting. But Adrian lived in a cage of expectations. His father's shadow loomed over every move he made. And I knew God. I knew that being with me meant burning down everything he'd been told to protect. So he pushed me away, again and again. "You know we can't," he whispered one night after walking me back to my dorm. His hand hovered inches from mine, trembling with the weight of everything unsaid. "Then stop looking at me like you want to," I snapped, because the hypocrisy was eating me alive. His eyes darkened, pain flashing across his face. But he said nothing. He just turned and walked into the night, leaving me standing there with anger buzzing in my chest. I told myself I'd had enough, that I wouldn't be some dirty little secret. But when he kissed me for the first time outside that neon-lit deli with the rain pouring down, I knew I was already lost. The kiss wasn't sweet. It was messy, desperate, filled with all the words he couldn't say. His hands framed my face, pulling me in like he'd explode if he let go. I should have shoved him away, reminded him of his own rules. But my body betrayed me, melting into his warmth, clutching his jacket like a lifeline. When we finally broke apart, breathless, his forehead pressed against mine, he whispered, "I don't care anymore." But of course he did. Because the next morning, he was back to being Adrian Price, the golden boy who couldn't risk a scandal. And I was just Noah, the guy he swore he couldn't have. What followed was months of stolen moments and broken promises. Whispered confessions in empty classrooms. Fingers brushing under the table during study sessions. A kiss hidden in the shadows of the library stacks. It was heaven and hell rolled into one. Because every touch felt like fire and every goodbye felt like dying. And the world wasn't kind. Rumors started swirling when people noticed how often we were together. His teammates gave him shit in the locker room, half joking, half serious. My classmates asked questions I didn't have the energy to dodge. Adrian's father was running for re-election, and nothing, not even his son's happiness, could threaten the campaign. "You don't get it?" Adrian snapped one night when I begged him to stop hiding. "If this gets out, it won't just ruin me. It'll ruin my family." "And what about me?" I shot back, tears stinging my eyes. "Do I not matter? Or am I just something you use to feel alive before you go back to your perfect little life?" The silence that followed was louder than any answer. I left before he could say another word. But love has a way of pulling you back, no matter how much it hurts. The breaking point came during the homecoming game. The stadium roared with thousands of voices, Adrian's name echoing across the field. He was flawless, untouchable until his eyes found mine in the crowd. For a split second, the mask slipped. I saw the boy who kissed me like the world was ending, the boy who whispered he didn't care. And in that look, I realized he was just as trapped as I was. After the game, when the victory party drowned the campus in noise and chaos, he found me standing alone by the Hudson. His jersey clung to him, sweat and adrenaline radiating off his skin. "Noah," he breathed, voice breaking, and before I could stop him, he kissed me again, harder, hungrier, like he was finally choosing me over everything else. That was the night everything changed. Adrian kissed me like he had been starving for years, like every touch was a rebellion, every taste of my lips a betrayal of the world he was born into. His fingers dug into my waist, pulling me closer as though he could erase all the months of hesitation with one desperate moment. And for a heartbeat, I let myself believe it. I let myself believe that he had finally chosen me, that this wasn't another secret we'd bury in the dark. But when the roar of laughter and music from the victory party spilled into the night behind us, reality came crashing back. His hand slipped from mine. His eyes darted over his shoulder, and I saw the cage slam shut around him all over again. "We can't stay here," he muttered, dragging a hand through his sweat-damp hair. I swallowed the ache in my throat. "Then where do we go, Adrian? Because you keep pulling me in and pushing me out, and I'm done being your fucking yo-yo." His jaw tightened. For once, the perfect golden boy didn't have an answer. We ended up at his apartment anyway. He lived off campus in a sleek, expensive loft his father had insisted on, so the press could photograph him studying in an environment that screamed discipline and class. It felt less like a home and more like a stage set, every piece of furniture sterile, spotless, soulless. But when the door shut behind us, the pretense cracked. Adrian leaned against it, chest heaving, eyes burning with a hunger I knew too well. "Noah." His voice broke around my name. "I'm sorry." I hated how easily those two words could unravel me. Before I could argue, he closed the space between us. His mouth claimed mine, softer this time, reverent, like an apology and a promise tangled together. His hands traced my arms, my back, the curve of my jaw, memorizing me like he was afraid I might vanish. We stumbled to his bedroom, shedding layers of doubt and fear with every kiss. For the first time, it wasn't about hiding. It wasn't about what we couldn't have. It was about us, raw, flawed, desperate. When morning came, the sun painted him in gold. His arm lay heavy over my waist, his breath slow against my shoulder. For a few precious seconds, I allowed myself to imagine a world where this was normal, where waking up beside him wasn't a crime against his family's legacy. But the world doesn't bend for fantasies. By Monday, he was back to being Adrian Price, Columbia's untouchable quarterback. He barely looked at me in the dining hall. Our secret lived in stolen glances, in the way his pinky finger brushed mine under the table when no one was watching. It was torture, and it didn't take long for people to notice. Rumors spread like wildfire on campus. They started as whispers: why does Adrian hang out with that music kid so much? Did you see them leaving the library together? And soon turned into something harsher. One afternoon, as I walked across the quad, I heard it clearly. Fag! Someone spat under their breath. I froze, heat crawling up my neck. When I turned, 3 of Adrian's teammates stood there, smirking like they owned the world. One of them, a bulky linebacker whose name I didn't bother remembering, sneered. You think you're special? That the golden boy's slumming it with you? My fists clenched. Every muscle in my body screamed to fight back. But before I could, Adrian appeared. Back off, he barked, stepping between us. His broad shoulders blocked me from their view. His voice was steady, commanding, the same one he used to call plays on the field. The guys laughed it off, muttering something about jokes as they walked away. But when they were gone, Adrian turned to me, his face pale. Are you okay? I shook him off, anger boiling under my skin. This is exactly what I was talking about. You keep me in the dark, and then I'm the one who gets burned. Noah, don't. My voice cracked. Don't tell me to wait for you to grow a spine. I can't keep living like this. His mouth opened, but no words came. And in that silence, I knew we weren't ready, or maybe he wasn't. The weeks that followed were a blur of avoidance. I threw myself into my music, practicing until my fingers bled. Adrian poured himself into football, breaking records, winning games, plastering his perfect smile across campus. But late at night, when the city quieted, I'd hear a knock at my dorm door. And there he'd be, red, voice shaking, begging for just one more night. I hated myself for letting him in. I hated him for not letting me go. Everything came to a head the night of the gala. Senator Price was hosting a fundraiser downtown, and of course, Adrian had to play the role of dutiful son. I hadn't planned on being there, but my roommate dragged me along. His band had been hired to perform, and he didn't want to face the glittering crowd alone. The ballroom was a sea of designer gowns and tailored suits, champagne glasses clinking under crystal chandeliers. I stuck out like a sore thumb in my borrowed jacket, hovering near the bandstand. And then I saw him. Adrian looked devastating in a black suit, his blonde hair slicked back, his smile dazzling for the cameras. But his eyes found me across the room and froze. For a split second, the mask slipped. I saw the boy who kissed me in the rain, the boy who whispered my name in the dark. But then his father clapped a hand on his shoulder, steering him toward a cluster of donors. Adrian's jaw tightened, and the moment shattered. I turned to leave, but I didn't get far. Who are you? A sharp voice demanded. I looked up to find Senator Richard Price himself towering over me. Up close, he was every inch the politician, tall, polished, eyes cold as steel. Noah Parker, I stammered, pulse hammering. His gaze narrowed, calculating. You're the music student. Adrian's friend. The word friend dripped with disdain. Yes, sir, I forced out. He studied me for a long, excruciating moment before leaning in, voice low enough only I could hear. Whatever you think is happening between you and my son, it ends now. Do you understand? My throat went dry. With all due respect, sir, that's not your decision. His smile was sharp, practiced. You're a distraction, and distractions have a way of disappearing. The threat was clear. Before I could respond, Adrian appeared, eyes darting between us. Dad, what are you? Nothing you need to worry about, Senator Price interrupted smoothly, clapping his son on the back. Why don't you take Noah outside for some air? Adrian's jaw clenched, but he obeyed, guiding me out onto the balcony with a grip that trembled against my wrist. "Noah, what did he say to you?" he demanded. I stared at him, heart pounding. "He told me to disappear. And you know what, Adrian? Maybe I should." His face crumpled. "Don't say that. Then give me a reason not to." My voice broke, the words spilling out like a dam had burst. "I'm tired of being your secret. I'm tired of being the thing you run to when no one's looking. If you can't fight for me, then let me go." Tears burned my eyes, but I didn't let them fall. Not here. Not in front of him. I turned to walk away, but his hand caught mine. "Noah, please." His voice cracked, raw and unpolished. Nothing like the confident golden boy the world adored. "I'm scared. I don't know how to do this without losing everything." I looked at him, really looked at him. For once, he wasn't perfect. He wasn't untouchable. He was just a boy, terrified of the weight he'd been forced to carry. And God help me, I still loved him. That night, I went home alone. But the choice had been made. One way or another, the truth was going to come out. Because secrets don't stay buried forever. The first crack came 2 weeks later. A photo. Someone had snapped a picture of us leaving the library late at night. His arms slung around my shoulders, my head tilted toward him. It wasn't incriminating on its own, but the gossip blogs ran with it. "Columbia's golden boy. Who's the mystery guy?" splashed across headlines, accompanied by grainy zoom-ins of my face. Adrian's phone blew up. His coach, his teammates, his father, everyone wanted answers. And for the first time, Adrian didn't deny it. I'll never forget the look on his father's face when Adrian stood in front of the press and said my name. "This is Noah Parker," he said, voice steady, eyes locked on mine. "He's not a distraction. He's not a rumor. He's the person I love." The room erupted. Cameras flashed. Reporters shouted questions. Chaos exploded. But all I saw was Adrian, standing tall, his hand reaching for mine in front of the entire world. And for the first time, he didn't let go. The press conference was chaos. Reporters shoved microphones forward, questions slicing through the air like bullets. "When did this start? Are you saying you're in a relationship? What does Senator Price think of all this?" Adrian didn't flinch. His hand was warm in mine, fingers entwined, his jaw set like stone. For once, he wasn't hiding behind a smile or burying himself in silence. He was choosing loudly, unapologetically, and it terrified me, because I knew what was coming. That night, the world caught fire. Social media exploded. Photos of us holding hands spread like wildfire, dissected and mocked by strangers who didn't know our names yesterday. Hashtags trended, some supportive, most cruel. Comment sections filled with venom homophobic slurs, jokes about the fall of America's golden boy, endless speculation about me. I wanted to turn my phone off, but curiosity was a sickness I couldn't shake. I scrolled until my chest ached, until I felt like I was suffocating under the weight of millions of eyes. Adrian found me sitting on the floor of his apartment, my phone clutched in my hands, tears streaking my face. "Noah," he whispered, kneeling in front of me. His thumb brushed a tear from my cheek. "Don't read that shit. They don't know you. They don't know us." My voice cracked. "Then why does it feel like they own us?" His arms wrapped around me, pulling me into his chest. His heart thundered beneath my ear. "Because for the first time, they can't control me. And that scares the hell out of them." I wanted to believe him. God, I wanted to believe that love could be stronger than the world. But deep down, I knew the world wouldn't let us win so easily. Senator Richard Price wasted no time striking back. 2 days after Adrian's announcement, the senator held his own press conference. Cameras captured his every word, his polished smile as he declared, "I love my son, but he is young. He is confused. And I ask the public to respect our family's privacy while we address this matter." Confused. The word sliced through me like a blade. I wasn't confused. Adrian wasn't confused. But to the senator, our love was just a political inconvenience to spin and smother. And he wasn't done. Within a week, Adrian's sponsorship deals started pulling out. A major sports magazine canceled his cover shoot. Rumors swirled about NFL scouts losing interest, whispers that his draft chances were sinking. Adrian didn't complain. Not once. But I saw the cracks. The clenched fists, the sleepless nights, the way he'd stare at his playbook like it was the only thing holding him together. And I hated myself for being the reason his dreams were slipping away. The breaking point came one cold November night. I found him sitting on the floor of his apartment, head in his hands, shoulders trembling. Empty beer bottles littered the coffee table. His phone buzzed endlessly with texts he wasn't answering. "Adrian," I said softly, stepping closer. He looked up, eyes bloodshot, pain etched across every line of his face. "Noah, I'm losing everything." I knelt beside him, my hand finding his. "You're not losing me." His laugh was hollow. "But what if that's not enough?" The words shattered me. "Don't you dare say that," I whispered, tears blurring my vision. "You told the whole world you loved me. You fought for me. Don't you dare start giving up now." He buried his face against my shoulder, his body shaking with silent sobs. For the first time, Adrian Price, the golden boy who never cracked, was breaking in my arms. And I realized something. Love wasn't enough to shield us, but it was enough to keep us fighting. Of course, the world wasn't done testing us. 2 weeks later, a video leaked. Someone had recorded us in the locker room after practice, a quick kiss, stolen in the shadows when we thought we were alone. The clips spread like wildfire, dissected on talk shows, mocked by late-night comedians. The backlash was brutal. Adrian's coach benched him, citing team morale. His teammates grew cold, whispers trailing us down every hallway. My own professors started treating me differently, some supportive, others looking at me like I was a scandal waiting to explode. One night, while walking back from rehearsal, I was shoved against a wall by 2 strangers, their fists clenched, their voices dripping venom. "Stay away from him, faggot." Before I could react, Adrian was there, pulling them off me, his rage barely restrained. They backed off, muttering slurs as they disappeared into the night. Adrian turned to me, hands trembling. "I can't keep watching you get hurt because of me." I cupped his face, forcing him to look at me. "Then don't leave me. That's the only thing that would hurt more." And for a moment, the world faded, leaving only us 2 boys clinging to each other against the storm. But storms don't end overnight. Thanksgiving break arrived, and Adrian invited me to his family's estate upstate. I hesitated, but he insisted. "If we're going to do this, Noah, we can't keep running. My father has to see we're real." The estate was everything I'd imagined and worse: marble floors, chandeliers, walls lined with portraits of ancestors who all wore the same stern expression. It wasn't a home. It was a fortress. Senator Price greeted us at the door, his smile tight, his handshake colder than the November air. His wife, Adrian's mother, was kinder, though her eyes held the same quiet worry. Dinner was a battlefield disguised as civility. The senator asked me polite questions with sharp edges. Where was I from? What did my parents do? What were my plans after college? Every word was a test, a reminder that I didn't belong in his world. Finally, he set down his glass of wine and looked at Adrian. "Son, this can't continue. You have a future. Don't throw it away for a fling." Adrian's hand tightened around mine under the table. His voice was steady, but his eyes burned. "This isn't a fling. I love him." The room went silent. Senator Price's face hardened, all pretense gone. "Then you're no son of mine." The words slammed into the air like a gunshot. Adrian stood, his chair scraping against the polished floor. "If that's how you feel, then maybe I don't want to be." And with that, he pulled me up and we left the mansion together. The cold night air bit at my skin as we walked down the long driveway, silence stretching between us. Finally, I whispered, "Adrian, you just burned every bridge." He stopped, turning to me. His eyes were wet, but his voice was certain. "I don't care. I'd rather lose everything than lose you." And right there, under the stars, he kissed me like it was the only truth left in the world. The fallout was immediate. Senator Price cut Adrian off financially. Sponsors vanished. Scouts distanced themselves. The media circus grew crueler, dissecting every move we made. We moved into a tiny apartment together, scraping by with part-time jobs while Adrian juggled practice and classes. It wasn't glamorous, it was cramped, messy, sometimes miserable. But it was ours. And for the first time, we weren't hiding. I'd find him asleep at the kitchen table, playbook under his arm, and drape a blanket over his shoulders. He'd show up at my recitals, cheering louder than anyone in the crowd. We fought, we laughed, we held each other through nights of doubt. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. The final blow came in spring. Adrian tore his ACL during a game. One wrong tackle, one bad twist, and his future in the NFL was gone in an instant. I rushed to the hospital, my heart in my throat. When I saw him lying there, pale and broken, I felt the weight of every choice we'd made. "This is my fault?" I whispered, tears streaming down my face. "If you hadn't chosen me," his hand found mine, weak but steady. "Don't you dare finish that sentence. This isn't your fault. It's football. It's life." "But you," his voice cracked. "You're the only thing I don't regret." I sobbed, clutching his hand to my chest. "I don't know how to fix this." "You don't have to." He smiled faintly, his eyes soft. "Just stay." So I stayed. Through surgery, through rehab, through the crushing realization that the NFL was gone. And slowly, painfully, we built something new. By summer, Adrian was walking again. Not running, not playing, but walking. And one evening, as we stood on the rooftop of our building, the city skyline glowing around us, he pulled a small box from his pocket. "Noah," he said, his voice trembling, "I don't have a career anymore. I don't have the life my father planned for me. But I have you, and that's enough. Will you?" His throat tightened. "Will you marry me?" Tears blurred my vision as I nodded, my hands shaking. "Yes, God, yes." He slid the ring onto my finger, and we kissed under the New York sky, the city roaring below us. For the first time, it felt like the world wasn't against us. For the first time, it felt like we had won. The night Adrian slipped the ring onto my finger, I thought the world had already given us its hardest battles. I thought everything after that rooftop kiss would be easy, smooth sailing, happily ever after. I was wrong, because love isn't a finish line. It's a choice you make every damn day. And some days, that choice is harder than others. The proposal sent ripples through our world, though not in the way we feared. Our closest friends were the first to rally. My roommate threw us an impromptu engagement party in our cramped apartment, stringing fairy lights across the ceiling and blasting music until the neighbors complained. For once, the laughter felt easy, genuine, without the weight of secrets. But outside our little bubble, the storm raged on. The press had a field day. Headlines screamed about the fallen quarterback, about the music student who cost him everything. Commentators debated whether our relationship was brave or selfish, whether Adrian was a cautionary tale or a hero. His father remained silent, and that silence was worse than any insult. It was Adrian's mother who reached out first. One spring afternoon, she showed up at our apartment unannounced, standing awkwardly in the hallway with a plate of cookies like we were still kids. She looked smaller than I remembered, her perfect hair pinned back too tightly, her smile brittle. "May I come in?" she asked softly. Adrian hesitated only a second before stepping aside. The conversation that followed was messy, halting, raw. She admitted she hadn't known how to stand up to her husband, how to protect Adrian from the tidal wave of expectation. She cried as she apologized, her hands trembling as she reached for her son's. "I'm proud of you," she whispered. "Not because of football, because you had the courage I never did." Adrian broke then, tears spilling down his cheeks as he hugged her tight. I stood back, my own chest aching, grateful that at least one bridge hadn't turned entirely to ash. Money was tight, but we made it work. I picked up extra gigs, playing piano at bars, teaching kids in the neighborhood. Adrian, with his knee still recovering, took tutoring jobs and even started helping coach the high school team nearby. He found a different kind of purpose there, mentoring kids who looked at him not as a fallen star but as someone who understood pressure, dreams, and disappointment. I thought football was everything, he admitted one night as we lay tangled together in bed, the city humming outside our window. But maybe it was just the path to here, to us. I kissed his shoulder, smiling against his skin. Guess the universe knew what it was doing after all. The summer bled into fall, and slowly, painfully, the noise began to quiet. People moved on to the next scandal. Headlines shifted, and in the quiet, we found room to breathe. Not everyone forgot, of course. There were still looks on the street, muttered slurs, whispers behind our backs. But we had learned to hold each other tighter in those moments, to meet the world's ugliness with stubborn, defiant love. And slowly, I began to believe in something I never thought I'd have, a future. Our wedding wasn't glamorous. It was small, tucked away in a community garden in Brooklyn. String lights hung between trees, folding chairs lined the makeshift aisle, friends strummed guitars instead of a string quartet. But when Adrian walked toward me, his blonde hair catching the evening sun, his eyes locked on mine like I was the only person in the world God, it was more beautiful than any cathedral. We spoke our vows with trembling voices, promising not perfection but persistence. Promising to fight, to forgive, to hold on when the world tried to pull us apart. When he kissed me, the garden erupted in cheers, and for once, I didn't care who was watching, because this was ours. Married life wasn't some fairy tale where everything magically worked out. We still argued over bills, over dishes, over whose turn it was to do laundry. We still carried scars from the battles behind us. But we also built routines that felt like home. Morning coffee together at the tiny kitchen table. Late-night walks through the city, hand in hand. Lazy Sundays where Adrian tried and failed to cook pancakes while I laughed until my stomach hurt. And every night, without fail, we fell asleep wrapped around each other, as if afraid to let go. One evening, almost a year after the scandal, I found Adrian sitting at his desk, papers scattered everywhere. He looked up with a grin, holding out an acceptance letter. Columbia's master's program in education, he said. They accepted me. I blinked, stunned. Education? He shrugged, a little sheepish. I love coaching. I love working with those kids. Maybe the NFL wasn't my future. Maybe this is. Pride swelled in my chest. Overwhelming. I pulled him into a kiss, whispering against his lips, "You're going to change lives." He smirked. "Starting with yours, apparently." And I laughed, realizing how far we'd come from the night he told me we couldn't be together. As the years passed, the sharp edges of our story softened. People forgot the scandal. The world moved on. But we never forgot what it cost us to get here, and we never stopped choosing each other. On our third anniversary, Adrian surprised me with a piano secondhand, scratched, imperfect, but beautiful. "I want music to fill this house," he said. And it did. Every night, I'd play while he sat beside me, his head resting on my shoulder, our lives stitched together by melodies and memories. The day we got the call about adoption, we were sitting on the couch, eating takeout, bickering about what movie to watch. "There's a baby," the social worker said. "A newborn boy. If you're ready." I looked at Adrian, my heart lurching. His eyes were wide, his hand already gripping mine. "Yes," we said in unison. Bringing that baby home was the scariest, most beautiful moment of our lives. Suddenly, the world wasn't just about surviving, it was about building something bigger than us. We named him James. Watching Adrian hold him for the first time, tears streaming down his face, I thought about every moment that had brought us here, the whispers, the slurs, the threats, the heartbreak. And I realized we hadn't just survived the storm. We had grown roots through it. Years later, when people asked about our story, I never sugarcoated it. I told them about the pain, the fear, the nights we almost walked away. But I also told them about the kiss in the rain, the rooftop proposal, the vows in a Brooklyn garden. Because love isn't a fairy tale. It's not neat or easy. It's messy. It's terrifying. It's choosing someone over and over, even when it hurts. And that's exactly what we did. One night, as I tucked James into bed and Adrian leaned against the doorway, watching with a soft smile, he whispered, "Remember when I said we couldn't be together?" I chuckled, brushing our son's hair back. Vividly, he stepped closer, wrapping his arms around me from behind, his lips brushing my ear. Thank God I was wrong. I turned, kissing him slow, tender, the kind of kiss that didn't need desperation anymore. The kind that tasted of forever. And in that moment, surrounded by the life we built, I finally believed it. We hadn't just survived. We had won. Thank you for listening. If you find it interesting, please like and subscribe to follow the next stories.